The Majority Report with Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Friday, March 6th, 2020. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, the proprietor of the Benjamin Dixon Show, Ben Dixon, will be with us via the telephone. Also on the program today, where is it? Did they come up with a new one? Oh, so writer at large, David Roth, will be with us. Meanwhile, still no endorsement from Warren as Biden and Sanders prep for next Tuesday, which we call Mini Super Tuesday. Everybody's calling it that. Trump scraps a CDC meeting as the coronavirus grows. 100,000 infections worldwide. U.S. deaths reach 12 people. And nurses around the country are begging for help as California waives testing costs and the Trump administration fails to come close to providing enough testing kits. Meanwhile, Bloomberg launches a new organization to buy our politics in a slightly different way. Mitt Romney may thwart the Biden subpoenas in the Senate. Those subpoenas are coming. ICE invading U.S. sanctuary cities. And a federal judge says he doesn't trust Bill Barr's Mueller redactions and wants to see the full Mueller report. Meanwhile, Bill Barr has more or less appointed himself the uber judge of all asylum hearings. Nathaniel Woods executed in Alabama for a 2004 police murder that he was supposedly involved with, despite the fact that the actual killer says Woods was not at all involved. UC Berkeley grad students walk out, seek strike authorization. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking a little bit about coronavirus. We should just let you know.
We're just saying it now, huh?
Huh?
We're just saying the C word now.
COVID-19. Sorry. Son of a gun. Show's over. Well, we're part of the economic disruption that is going to take place with COVID-19. First off, before I get into the pandemic, let me wish my sister a belated happy birthday. I was not on air yesterday, so I could not wish her a happy birthday. And my son an early birthday. His is tomorrow. So it's like birthday central around here. Just wash your hands, folks.
Mine's Monday, just FYI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we'll be here on Monday, but happy
Just
birthday,
you know.
just in case we forget. Now I've checked off that box. And for that matter, Matt, happy birthday.
December, but thanks.
I'm covered, and Brendan, same. Wait, didn't yours just happen? Yeah. November, right.
That's always a bluff.
Exactly.
4 months ago.
Oh, well, all right. Some people think 4 months is a long time ago, and not for me.
I mean, within the past year.
Right. So we've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, there is some anticipation about Elizabeth Warren's endorsement or non-endorsement that is either forthcoming or not forthcoming.
God damn it.
Honestly, I think an endorsement coming either today or perhaps on Sunday into Monday might be very, very helpful to Bernie Sanders. I think the window for her endorsement to be relevant is really, I'd say, over the next 48, 72 hours. I mean, it's conceivable within the primary. But we'll talk more about that with Ben. Meanwhile, just a reminder, this program relies on you for its support. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you get the free show, free of commercials. You get the fun half and all sorts of stuff like that. So head over there to do so. Meanwhile, 300 million students are out of schools around the world. The whole theory, understand here, and I keep hearing anecdotally people I meet who are in random industries like, oh yeah, no, our Washington State obviously hit very hard. Our Washington office is shut down. Everybody has to stay at home. And this business and, or that business in New York, yeah, no, they had a problem. They're sending everybody home. And these are not things that are obviously you're going to find in the news. Like you don't see this, but I think we're in the midst of the beginning of a serious economic disruption. And I think we're very close to maybe sort of serious, what do they call it? Community, contagions or whatever. I don't know the exact term. It escapes me at the moment, but I think we're a couple of weeks away from this to be very significant in the way that it interferes with our daily lives, at least for some period of time. I'm not saying that, people aren't going to go around with leprosy or whatnot, but, and apparently it's particularly dangerous to older folks, people maybe over the ages of 60, or people who are immunocompromised, less so for children and adults under the age of 60, and those who don't have any immunity problems. But the real problem here is, let me just put it this way. South Korea has been testing over 10,000 people a day for at least a week and a half. Maybe it's been 2 weeks. Maybe it's a little bit longer. The U.S. has managed to test 3,600 people, period, total, end of story. This is a major, major F-up by the Trump administration. And we haven't seen the implications yet, I think, of this screw up. We will. But they did it, and they're continuing to do it because they think they can talk this thing away. They think, and Larry Kudlow is the perfect person to be the spokesperson for the administration on this, because his whole strategy has always been trying to visualize an increased stock market and it happening. Like his whole thing when he was a TV show host, he worked in the Reagan administration 40 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. His whole thing as a business journalist was to simply say, like, all this naysaying is going to be a problem. That's why in literally weeks before the financial crisis crested, he was like, there is no problem. There is no problem out there. I'm not seeing it. And he is the perfect guy to be coming out and doing this for the coronavirus, too, I think. Now, of course, he uses like he has some help. Oh, you want to wait? Okay. Here is Kudlow on his old home, CNBC.
I don't want to downplay anything. We worry about the effect on human beings, for heaven's sake. But I'm just saying, let's not overreact. Yeah. In many ways,
I hear that, Larry,
America
but a lot of
should stay at work. We should stay at work.
Pause it. Do you hear what he's saying? This is coming off of the heels of Donald Trump saying, like, there are people going into work. And now he's saying people should stay at work.
That I speak to, Scott Gottlieb, the former FDA commissioner, would say very different things, in particular about Seattle and about the government response that needs to actually take place and how we need to be a lot more formidable in our response. And statements like the ones you just made are actually encouraging people to do things that they shouldn't and that will actually cause the spread of the virus as opposed to it stopping.
Well, I don't. That's not what. Look, Scott Gottlieb's a brilliant guy, and he's a friend of mine.
Scott Gottlieb.
With respect to Seattle, all right, that would be a place you would avoid for now. And Governor Newsom, declaring California an emergency state, especially Northern California.
Emergency.
I understand that. Avoid it. Exercise common sense. But the rest of the country is not suffering.
He's just said avoid the state. That is the fifth largest economy in the world. And he's just said it like you would say.
Common sense about
it. Look, here's the thing. The one thing is like, don't take the subway at like 4 a.m. if you're drunk alone. There you are. No, it's like, just throw it. Look, all people have to do is just get a bunker. Get a bunker and a high-speed internet connection. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. He's just trying to throw it off, like avoid California. Okay? Avoid Seattle, California.
Well, especially Northern California.
In Northern California. And it probably.
But also there.
In the middle.
Use your common sense about that.
Use your common sense. Look, here's the thing. Don't, just think about, just try and avoid most of everything. And we'll be fine.
Now, the coast, you're going to want to be careful.
Exactly. We're not dead yet. We're good.
California an emergency state, especially Northern California. I understand that. Avoid it. Exercise common sense. But the rest of the country is not suffering from those kinds of breakouts, at least not yet. I don't want to suggest it might not occur in the future. We're just trying to do this a day at a time, a fact at a time, if you will. And really,
folks,
the overriding
a day at a time, dealing with a pandemic, a day at a time is about the only thing that you could describe in such a general way that would be the wrong thing to do. Like if you were going to say, listen, as a layperson, can you please explain what would be the wrong response to this? And that would be like, we got to be completely behind the eight ball. What we need to be able to do is see this we need to be able to not see this coming. We need to be able to see it going. See what I'm saying? So day by day, you wake up in the morning, you say like, oh, we have a pandemic. All right. I guess maybe we should have done something.
Let's sleep on it.
This is what everybody needs to do. Common sense, take a nap. Everybody take a nap. We'll look back, I think maybe with fresh eyes.
Everyone count to 100.
Time, a fact at a time, if you will. And really, the overriding numbers, most Americans are not at risk. And as I say, 80% of Americans, if you get the infection, are going to come out just fine. Some people have it and don't even know it because they get through it in a week or two. And
there you go.
Who is this working on?
Nobody.
Trump, maybe?
Exactly. Yeah. This is just Trump saying, get out there, Larry, do your best. And Larry, he'll say anything. And I think he also probably, derives some courage. His courage is liquid, if you will, for all of us. And he gets out there and he just will say anything. And meanwhile, it just makes for a good metaphor. The Dow is down 760 points as he's saying this on CNBC. I mean, that's it for them.
Here's a soundbite of what he said 10 days ago.
We have contained this. I won't say airtight, but pretty close to airtight. We've done a good job in the United States. Hats off to our public health people.
Yeah, there you go. Unbelievable.
How is he allowed to be this drunk all the time?
Well, I think it's the only option, to be honest with you.
It's hard to do the job otherwise.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you deal with Trump going out there and say the absolute wrong thing? Okay. Let me just, right. I can do this.
Guess this is the best they got.
Can happen. Folks, it took me, for whatever reason, a very long time to appreciate, like, good lighting. That you don't want your living space to basically have the same lighting as, say, a doctor's office or a factory. You want there to be some element of like mood, and you want there to be sort of like some subtlety and mix with the rest of your decor, as it were. I'm learning. But I do now appreciate the idea of like lamps. Whereas before I was just like, all I need is just like one fluorescent light above. Why would I need any more than that? But, and there is no better place to find just an enormous array of lamps than at Lamps Plus. They've been upgrading homes for decades. They're a leader in lighting innovation and product design expertise. And not only do they have literally thousands, 55,000 designs of different lamps there. They have exclusive styles and lighting. They have it for every room. They have chandeliers. They have outdoor lights. They have ceiling fans. They have more. They have home furnishings and decor, which can, perfect the look that you're going for in your house or your apartment. You can customize your lighting. They have over 100 different colors. They have videos with design tips, which has been particularly helpful for me. They have inspirational photos. They have the latest trends. You can take your mood board and go through 55,000 different designs. Find the one that you like. There's no reason to get lighting anywhere else. Lamps Plus is the nation's largest lighting retailer. Like I say, 55,000 designs, all from top brands, including Minka. Minka, as I'm sure you know, Matt, is known for decorative pieces. They blend function and style. They use innovative materials. My tastes are very sort of like minimalist and then also functional. And I have these awesome sort of desk lamps. You could use them as nightside tables too, that have a USB plug-in sort of discreetly on the side there. Right now, Lamps Plus is offering up to 50% off hundreds of lights and furniture and decor during the biggest sale of the season from now until March 30th. You got 24 days, folks. That's 50% off during the Lamps Plus half-price days and sale through March 30th at lampsplus.com/majority. That's the word lamps, LAMPS, PLUS.com/majority. lampsplus.com/majority. Start saving today. Folks, the Majority Report is made possible in part by Skillshare. And they've got an amazing deal for our listeners today. The first 500 people who go to skl./Majority Report 6. This is a new link. skl.sh/Majority Report 6 are going to get a free premium membership to Skillshare for 2 entire months. Skillshare, it's an online learning community, offers thousands of classes almost on any topic you can imagine. What's that? Oh, sorry. You didn't realize you were talking out loud. There are thousands of classes. I don't know. Maybe there's one like learning to say things to yourself under your breath. That's not there. But they have classes on drawing. They have classes on painting, photography, video editing, web design, running a small business, a whole lot more. And almost all the classes are less than an hour long. And they're split up into like chapters, essentially, bite-sized lessons. So you can, I'm going to do 2 now, and then I'm going to do the rest after I, whatever, put the kid to bed or do the laundry or do the dishes or record the AM quick, whatever it is. Easy to fit Skillshare into your week, even if you have a busy schedule. Now, Skillshare right now, and this must be a function of everything that I've done in the past, like in terms of watched, they're now recommending to me, learn how to motivate yourself, master self-discipline, and get things done. I think that could be very helpful to me. They have one on interior design. I mean, they have millions. I mean, not millions. That's an exaggeration, but just how to learn. Strategies for starting, practicing, and mastering the skills you've always wanted. There's a bunch of stuff like this, stuff that is like more about how to learn skills, some that are like direct skills, illustration, photos, career planning, logo design essentials. I mean, great stuff. Make money on YouTube. Check it out, folks. Everyone can benefit from setting aside a little more time to get creative. Skillshare has classes for every skill level. It doesn't matter whether you want to get better at something or learn something that you've never even contemplated learning. A membership to Skillshare is less than $10 a month, and it gives you access to their entire library of classes. But now, the first 500 of you who go to skl.sh/MajorityReport6 are going to get a free membership for 2 whole months. I put the link under this. If you're watching on YouTube, I've put it in the podcast description. Check it out. skl.sh/MajorityReport6. All right, quick break, and we'll be talking to Ben Dixon. We are back. Sam Cedar on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome back to this program. He is the proprietor of the Benjamin Dixon Show, which I hope that you have subscribed to and head over and supported via Patreon, et cetera, et cetera. Ben Dixon, welcome back to the program.
Sam, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So first off, let me first congratulate you on some level. You really got the ball rolling with Michael Bloomberg.
Yeah.
I guess I can't remember if that was 6 months ago or two, or
it feels
12,
like 6 years ago.
But he dropped out this week.
Yeah.
So you can get off the Bloomberg beat for a certain extent. And I'm going to be talking to David Roth, who wrote quite a piece about Bloomberg in the New Republic. We're going to be talking about him. So we'll skip him for the moment. We obviously, I was like, wait, should we talk about Super Tuesday? And then I realized, oh yeah, that was 72 hours ago. I'm completely dizzy. But I mean, let's talk about Super Tuesday. Then we'll talk about Elizabeth Warren, because I think that obviously one leads into the other in terms of where this campaign and where this primary goes after that. Broadly speaking, we know what happened on Super Tuesday. Joe Biden cleaned up in the South. He dominated with African American voters from the South. Sanders did very well in California. I think he's won now, or he's ahead in something like, 50 out of 54 counties or something to that effect. It just sort of a stunning number. And he also did very well with Latinos. And then, of course, we had the same sort of breakdown that we have, and it seems almost even more intense, this huge age gap between Sanders supporters and Biden supporters. Just give me your thoughts, broadly speaking, with all that said.
Yeah. Well, so let me start with Bloomberg. Part of me does feel like, kind of wish we hadn't been so effective at getting rid of him so quick. So I'm like, I gotta take that on the chin. But the possibility that the Democratic Party would have coalesced around him by Super Tuesday really is looming, right? We could be looking at a week where instead of fighting Joe Biden, we would have been fighting a party that coalesced around Michael Bloomberg, which to me is an easier fight because of just the stark contrast. But it also would have signaled that he has already purchased the Democratic Party. So I don't know which one is the lesser of two evils. But here we are now. We have a fight on our hands with Joe Biden, who honestly, so a couple of things about the South. I grew up in the South. I only spent 5 years outside of the South. So I know the South more than I know anything else. And I could just tell you, older Black folks in the South are conservative, period. Point blank, that's in the conversation, and they are.
What does that mean, though? Conservative, in what way? Conservative in that they don't want to take any risks. Conservative in that they are socially conservative. Conservative in that they are just sort of broadly conservative.
Yes, all the above, right? They're religious. They're very religious. They are socially conservative. You are going to find now here's a distinction. I don't want to throw something at them that Pete tried to throw at us. He tried to throw at us the homophobia of the Black community. There is homophobia in the Black community, but where you do see the data parting ways is that Black people, even older Black people, don't want to see discrimination against the LGBTQ community. So there is homophobia there, but that's where we draw the line because of obviously our experience with discrimination. But they are socially conservative. If you ask them their viewpoints on gay marriage, it's probably going to be more in line with the Republican Party. In fact, they are so conservative, and I'm not throwing them under the bus. I come for them. They're like my parents. They're my aunts and stuff. If it was not for the racism of the Republican Party, a lot of Black voters, particularly in the South, especially those that are religious, would vote with the Republican Party. And again, this is not to throw them under the bus. Love them, respect them. I met Jim Clyburn, great dude, but he's wrong. Their politics are just wrong. And I think that's where we have to draw the line in the party, is to say, listen, we know we honor and we cherish our Black elders. That's just a thing that we do in the Black community. And it's been transmuted somehow over to the Democratic Party, not somehow, very specifically for political purposes of being able to represent the fact that they represent Black people. The Democratic establishment represent Black people. No, you represent a very specific type of Black person, which is an older Southern conservative Black person.
I mean, it's funny because depending on the various status of the race, when you watch different commentators, on MSNBC, let's say, for instance, making the point that the African-American voter is not monolithic. And we cannot say that. And then until, Biden wins and they're like, the African Americans have spoken.
Right.
And I mean, look, everybody to some extent, everybody sort of like, works these type of games.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody is monolithic until any segment of them have said what I want them to say. And then at that point, they are actually speaking for everybody. So the vote for Biden, was it a function of Bernie's politics? Like, are they like Medicare for all? Like, I'm really against Medicare for all. Or is it Joe Biden is sort of is the establishment, is the power, and can win, and we feel more comfortable with that because we know the implications of a Republican in office.
It's both, right? So when I spent a couple of days in South Carolina this weekend or this past weekend, and I had a chance to talk to, anywhere I stopped, I just talked to voters to see what they were feeling. And when I mentioned Bernie Sanders' name, this is how I knew he was going to lose. By Friday night, I knew he was going to lose Saturday. There was such a visceral reaction to the mention of his name, right? And if you dug into it, they really couldn't tell you why, except for, we just can't trust Bernie. We just, So I think it's a combination of effective propaganda, right? Effective ad campaigns by Bloomberg in South Carolina. I'm sorry, not Bloomberg, but Steyer in South Carolina. And also the fact that they fancy themselves to be so fiscally conservative. Right. And now I'm talking broader, not just about African Americans in the South, but this is, I think, it's an epidemic. You remember it was all the rave to say I'm socially liberal, but economically conservative. Yeah. So I got hemmed up. This older black guy, after I did the hit with MSNBC on Friday night, I got pulled over to the side by this older black gentleman. And I figured I was just going to have like a regular conversation with one of my elders. Nah, man, dude was ready to fight me. He was so upset about the fact that I had just made the case for Bernie Sanders on air, and he wanted to make sure I understood that I was wrong. And, I kind of just respected him, but, I respected him as much as I could, with the fact that he was really like pressing up on me. Like I'm like, dude, you're 80 years old, and I'm like 8 inches shorter than you, so this is not going to go well for either one of us, right? But it just shows like they had a visceral reaction in the South to Bernie Sanders. So it is a combination of both effective propaganda by the Democratic Party and these ads being run by politicians, as well as the idea that they fancy themselves to be fiscally conservative.
So just briefly, because I want to circle back to Super Tuesday again, but when we look out to next Tuesday, we're looking at Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri. I don't think there's a huge African-American population in Idaho or North Dakota. Washington isn't particularly, diverse as far as this goes. But Michigan and Mississippi and Missouri give sort of an opportunity to sort of like, I guess, see an example of how the black community is not monolithic in terms of the way that they look at their politics, right? I mean, that's I mean, are we going to see a difference in how the black community votes in the Democratic primary in Detroit versus, anywhere in Mississippi?
Yeah. If and only if the young vote turns out. When I say young, I mean like 45 and below. South Carolina, I think we had 10% in the 29 and below category turnout. So you can basically gauge who's going to win based on the age of who shows up. And right now, man, the super voters, the elderly, the boomers, they are showing the hell up. Yep. And they're making sure that their voices are heard. Young kids are not. And of course, I don't really believe that it's, a one-to-one relationship between age and their votes. I think it's a one-to-one between their what they believe politically. And it's just that younger people are more radical in their beliefs. And I want to be careful. It's not even radical. I mean, we're talking about New Deal Democrats. And so to answer your question very directly, it depends solely on who shows up. And at this rate, I don't think we're going to have a good showing in Mississippi because of how conservative it is. And because Bernie is he's dipped out on Mississippi like that. I think they've given up on Mississippi already. And then who's actually going to show up to the polls. So we'll have to see.
Okay. And so the results are what they are. We will see how Bernie does with African Americans outside of the South, at least in terms of Michigan. Michigan's, obviously hugely important for Sanders. I mean, just in terms of that has been Michigan in 2016 was when people started to think wait a second, Bernie could actually win. It was a little bit late for people to start actually thinking that and operating that way. But that was the big sort of upset at the time. So Bloomberg drops out. And like I say, we're going to talk to David Roth about that campaign. But good to see him go. And we have this situation. And I should say that much of what happened is that consolidation around Biden, that basically started with Clyburn. And 50% of the voters at that time basically made up their minds, it seems like, based upon Clyburn's recommendation, which leads me to believe that their feelings were just not that strong, right? It's not, I'm not underselling Clyburn's, the power of that endorsement, but an endorsement having that much influence leads me to believe that prior to that, a lot of people were just I don't know what to do. And I'm waiting for someone to tell me. I desperately want to beat. I think this is, really been underestimated. The intensity in which people want to vote against Donald Trump. And so much so that they're just somebody tell me which Democrat is the one that I should that is gonna beat Donald Trump, and you tell me because I can't make that assessment, and I'll vote for that person. And I feel like that's the dynamic that we're dealing with at the very least 50% of the voting population in the Democratic Party right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's telling. And that should be a wake-up call for particularly Bernie supporters that social media is definitely effective, but it does not cut through into our main culture. There's so many people who are, sometimes it can, don't get me wrong, but in terms of our political conversation, I saw more people on election day tagging me, asking me to tell them how to vote. And I'm like, if you can't tell by all the posts that I've made up to this point, I don't really know what to tell you. But people are really dependent on the opinions of the people they trust. Now, to Jim Clyburn himself, that man is a monster. He is a powerhouse in the state of South Carolina in the Democratic Party. I think a lot of the phenomenon matches exactly what you said. But just kind of seeing the swagger with which, the people really damn near worship that man in South Carolina. Right. So it's a combination of the two for sure.
And this leads into sort of the conversation about Elizabeth Warren, but Clyburn came out and said, Sanders never even asked me for my endorsement. Yeah. And from Sanders' perspective, it's he knew that he wasn't going to get it from Clyburn, right? Yeah. But do you think that this is one of those situations where, and the thing that I think people really like about Bernie Sanders is that he does not do the disingenuous sort of glad handing and whatnot. Yeah. But I think at the same time, that's a liability. Why even, what does it cost you to ask Clyburn for his nomination, even when you're not going to get it? We do this in our, people do this all the time. I'm going to invite, Brendan to my, my daughter's bat mitzvah. I know he's not going to come, but it's just a polite thing to do. And it makes him feel better. And he can't go around going Sam didn't invite me to his daughter's bat mitzvah. Whatever. I'm just saying that this is, at one point, and this, people have talked about this and Bernie needed to run as a front runner and this and that. It seems to me that on some level, there are the things that I like about Bernie Sanders, that he is not a BS politician. Sometimes also the fact of the matter is these are politics and people are sensitive and humans and, full of ego and this and that. And you go and you ask Clyburn and I don't know, maybe it makes no difference, but there's no cost to it. And if if it made Clyburn hesitate by an hour to do his endorsement, if it made him to use like one different adjective about Biden, and like whatever, like what, that's that sort of like lays the groundwork for the Warren thing. But I just want to get your sense about that.
So two things, like there's an aspect of it where it's a method of control where they want you to come and kiss the ring. They want you to come in and acknowledge their power, and you can't get through South Carolina without stopping through me. And I get that, right? And I get how you could reject that. I see how that can be an anathema to you. Like you just really reject that type of politics. But at the same time, it's some really basic human interactions at the same time, right? So if you break it down, it really is just calling to say hello, telling them what you're doing, and can you support me? I think that there's nothing about that should be taken as too laborious. Like, pick up the goddamn phone and call. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're on radio or not, but to just
pick up the phone. We don't say
phone
on this show.
Pick up the phone and call. And just drop by, if for no other reason than to not give your opponents ammunition against you. Sometimes you have to do things you don't like just to avoid from giving them a talking point.
Right. Jim, I know you're not going to endorse me probably, but I just want you to know I respect you. You're a good man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you do. And then you hang up the phone and you go, I had my fingers crossed. Whatever. Who cares? like I can understand if it is communicated in such a way that it projects some type of weakness. You have to make this assessment, right? As you do within the context of politics. But I don't see a scenario where him doing a call like that,
Right. It's not too much to ask.
Right. And my hope is, well, let's talk about this Warren thing, because I believe that Elizabeth Warren's endorsement could make a big difference right now.
Absolutely.
In how in the trajectory of this race. And it's not because of her voters are necessarily going to go and vote for Bernie. The ones that voted for her on Super Tuesday are going to go vote for her, go vote for Bernie, or, that cohort. I think a lot of those people may have already sorted themselves out. But, it's like, Joe Biden didn't win because of all the Pete Buttigieg supporters, down in South Carolina or whatever it was, or anywhere for that matter. He won because there was a sense that other people were expressing confidence in his ability to beat Trump. And I think when you have someone like Elizabeth Warren, whose core brand proposition is competency, and there's a lot of people out there who she was their second choice. And maybe they're with Biden now, or they're thinking about Biden or whatever. Her coming out and saying, I'm expending, trust me, I'm competent. And Bernie Sanders is the person you should vote for. I think that's going to have a lot more, quantitative value than just whatever her, whatever voters were inclined to leave her and go to Bernie. Yeah. It's going to create a new narrative going into this race. I don't think she has too much more time to do it, frankly, to have this impact. But last night on Rachel Maddow's program, Elizabeth Warren sat down and she had this to say in regards to Sanders' campaign.
Particularly, it's a particular problem with Sanders' supporters.
It is. And it just is. It's just a factual question, and it is, and that's something I think that. Have
you ever talked with Senator Sanders about that?
I have.
Pause it. I should just make it clear that she is responding to the, broadly speaking, the antagonism of Sanders supporters. She used earlier in this segment, I think, the examples of people doxing people in Nevada and, Maddow framed it in the form of the snake emojis and this and that. And I think Warren sort of took it a step further to the stuff that's happened in real life, outside of that. But it is part of a whole. But here, she's responding to this.
About that?
I have.
What was that conversation like?
It was short. But yeah, we've talked about it. But I think it's a real problem.
Does he not share your view that he's responsible for the behavior of supporters?
You know, I shouldn't speak for him. It's something he should speak for himself on. But I do think it's something that we need to reckon with in our political discourse in particular, because this is what politics is about, is to get out and put your ideas out there. And people choose sides, people vote, people say, I'm holding a sign for her, I'm holding a sign for him. That is part of what we do. But what underlies that is a fundamental human decency and respect for each other. An understanding that nobody tries to put somebody's family at risk or somebody personally at risk because they disagree with you on the politics of it, because they see the policy different, because they don't support your candidate and they support some other candidate. No. And if we follow that same kind of politics of division that Donald Trump follows, that notion of, he draws strength from tearing people apart, from demonizing people, from saying, oh, those are bad people, and that's kind of how they draw their strength. It's not who I want to be as a Democrat. It's not who I want to be as an American. And to the extent I have any power to control that, I do what I can, and I call on others to do the same. And I think we have to have some accountability around that.
Now, she goes on to, maybe suggest how you could go about this, citing like the agreement she had with Scott Brown to not use outside money. But what is your, first, let's start off with is this, from your perspective, is this Elizabeth Warren saying, this is why I'm not going to endorse Bernie Sanders? Or is this Elizabeth Warren saying, this is maybe the price I need to endorse you, because she's acknowledging maybe what her, constituency and her base of support feels?
Listen, man. I wish you hadn't asked me that question until after she endorsed, because I feel like what I have to say is going to be amalgamated into their complaints. I don't think for a second that it is reasonable for a person running for president in 2020 to take the time to be concerned about concern trolling, because at this point, the internet has been a cesspool since AOL dial-up. Okay, people have been going at each other's throats over everything from politics down to whether or not you put spaghetti with meatballs mixed together in one pot. Right? They really go to war with each other over everything. And what I know to be true about the Democratic Party is that they are using concern trolling as a way of trying to silence us. There is not going to be. Can we be nicer online? Yes. Can we ever be nice enough for them online? No. Because they are using civility as a tool to maintain their power. And I absolutely reject that from Elizabeth Warren. I don't care how many snake emojis. Are we really talking about snake emojis and people are going to die because they don't have health care coverage? We're talking about marginalized people who are living on the edge financially. They're desperate. They don't even know if they could pay their rent coming up. Right. Some people just got evicted this weekend. Some of those are the people who are online are upset because of the absurdity of the framing of the conversation. And Elizabeth Warren, I love her. I want her endorsement, but she's complicit in that, exactly with that interview with Rachel Maddow.
OK, now, so let me ask you this way. I agree that we should live in a politics where our politicians don't take into account these things, frankly. No, she's talking about, the things she cited, to be fair, up front, were not the snake emojis. That was Maddow bringing that up and trying to make that part of it. She talked about, union workers in Nevada getting, doxxed, about, people attacking the Working Families Party. Specifically, I can't remember who it was, a woman specifically attacking in terms of doxing her, that type of thing. But, and look, also, I sit here and I say, when Donald Trump, winks and nods at certain racist stuff and anti-Semitic stuff, we see it play out in the real world. Now, there is some of that we see in the context of, I saw a video of somebody out with a megaphone in front of the California, one of some California state Democratic official at midnight with a megaphone and a huge flashlight, and half a dozen of these people just like yelling at this guy's house. Apparently, he wasn't even home. I mean, put aside for a moment the question of like, because I think what the dynamic you're talking about is true, but there's clearly like, if you are working for Warren's campaign, if you are a Warren supporter, you feel maligned, right? I mean, certainly, look, Bernie's supporters also have the same sort of, ability to take things personally. Mm-hmm. I mean, I certainly experienced that in 2016 where there were people who are just like, these people are dicks to us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they are. I get it. But that's, I wish everybody was as removed from their emotions as I am. And it can just sort of like, it cuts both ways. But for a moment, assume that she has people in her campaign, supporters and this and that, who do feel like they were abused.
Yeah, then I think that they are unqualified to fight against Donald Trump. And here's why. It's because there's nothing that we have said or done. And I haven't seen, like, it's impossible for us to be accountable for a random user with Wiki, Ladies Man 217. Like, we're not going to be able to handle every single person. Bernie Sanders has condemned it from his platform. But here's the thing. The reason I get a little irritated with Bernie Sanders condemning it is because he is able to unpack the BS in so many other ways. And I wish that he would just go ahead and unpack the BS here, because the BS here is that they are not coming to us in good faith. If they came to us in good faith and would exchange with us a common bond of mutual friendship, that we're here for progressive values, then we could really consider, let's change our entire tone. But they're not coming to it. They want to destroy our movement. And the way they can get it done is by silencing the most powerful component that we have, which is our online activism. Really, the left is thriving because of Twitter. And if they can control our behavior on Twitter, then they can control our movement. It's not as though they're coming to us and saying, hey, we really want to find a way to work together. Could you just tone it down? And then we actually could have that conversation. But what they're doing is they're expecting us to be civil with them when they are uncivil with us. I'm sorry, we're not going to lay down our arms in that way, in my opinion.
Well, so, I mean, from your perspective, do you take that as Warren saying, I'm not endorsing Bernie and this is why, or rather, this is why, and then later, I'm not endorsing anybody? Or, yeah, I mean, that's what that signals to you.
Yeah. To me, I honestly did not expect her, after the sexism claim, the claim that he said a woman couldn't win, I was like, oh, she's not on our team. Like, I actually, like, I have a problem. Like, I understand how I think malicious Elizabeth Warren can be. See, Elizabeth Warren can be as Machiavellian as any other politician.
Of course.
Right. She gives the appearance as though she's just your nice little soccer mom and your nice school teacher. And I love that appearance. Like, I fall for it every single time. And she gets me every single time. I fall for it. And then she comes back with a dagger in the back. So she's a very calculating politician. And so all of this nice, school teacher appearance, like, and don't get me wrong, this is not an insult to her. This is the kind of Machiavellianism that you need to win in politics. So I actually kind of admire it about her. But don't come and ask me to be friendly with you when you're stabbing me in the back.
Well, I mean, but do you think, I guess my point is this, and that from my perspective, like, if you're the Sanders campaign, why can't you just come out and say, we're appointing some type of like ombudsman or czar who's going to look into, situations where we have Bernie supporters who are and any other supporters who of any other candidates who are doing things that we think are sort of out of bounds, online. Of course, people can go, and just like box in on some level Warren so that you're basically calling a bluff there. If it's a bluff, if it's not a bluff, then you're delivering something that gives her the opportunity to endorse. I guess I'm just asking, like, what's more important in this instance? This notion of like maintaining that there is no issue here with the behavior, or getting the endorsement?
but they're striking at our power, right? Our power isn't, and when I say our power, I'm not talking about the snake emojis. I'm not talking about the silly stuff. I'm not talking about, I do sometimes wish that people would be like, be a little circumspect in how you engage, because it's weaponized against us. Right. And I was the first one to make those claims from the time that she announced. Like, the very first thing I said about the presidential election is that Bernie is going to be the nominee. Let's make sure that people can unify around him. And then a lot of Bernie supporters got mad, like, you're blaming us, you're blaming us. I get it. Everybody's passionate. Everybody's riled up. But here's the reality. Two things. The left, our power is in our words, in our organizing, particularly online, as well as offline. Like, there's a lot of real activism on the left that's happening offline. But they're trying to cut at our power center, which is our ability to organize online, particularly on Twitter, and to really, honestly, like, we have been thrashing some campaigns. Really, like, set aside Bloomberg, the fact that I consider myself an oligarch slayer at this point.
Right.
But we've gone through Kamala Harris down. Now there's only one person left, and that's Joe Biden. And they want us to play nice. No, we're not here to play nice. We're here to win this primary. That's number one. But number two, you're going up against the troll in chief, the man who has no shame. There is nothing that we have said that won't be amplified tenfold by Donald Trump. And so my question is, if you cannot handle the left on Twitter, how are you going to handle Make America Great Again?
Right. Well, I mean, I think we've saw that she's not going to be she's not going to get the nomination. I mean, I think like that. I'm talking about today, like like going forward, and what Sanders needs to win. Now, he may not need it. I mean, I don't know. Like, I wonder. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this way. Do you think the snake emojis? Do you think it helped? Do you think that's that? I mean, how much of Warren's failure in her campaign to go beyond where she went the other day is a function of the snake emoji? I mean, I don't know if you can assess that. I'm just, we're just having a conversation.
I want to, but I wanted to wait until after she made her decision to say these things, only because, if they're going to blame her decision on snake emojis, sure as hell thell they're going to blame me as well for everything that I'm saying at this point.
What do you want?
Because we reduce it down to some of the most pathetic, pitiful things. Here's the thing about Elizabeth Warren. I was run back in 2015. So I'm a fan of hers. I considered voting for her in 2020. Like, I really set aside my support for Bernie in 2016 and really sat there and considered whether or not I'm going to support him or Elizabeth Warren. Here's the thing that bothers me about Elizabeth Warren was that she wavered on the things that were the most critical for me personally, right? And when I saw her waver, I'm like, I can't trust her to go in there and fight for Medicare for all, which is something that my family desperately needs. So that was a deciding factor. Here's what I'm getting a little fed up with. We wanted you in 2015. We needed you in 2016, right? I think we would have President Warren right now if she had run, because, matter of fact, Bernie waited until she decided not to run. And so this entire infrastructure that has been built on the back of Bernie Sanders and all of the organizers who rallied around him once she decided not to run. So how are you going to be frustrated in 2020 when you don't get the kind of momentum that you would have gotten in 2015 when that was your decision in 2015?
Okay, but I mean, you really don't want to answer as to whether you think the snake emojis. Like, I'm just curious.
So here's the answer. Here's the answer. It did not. I don't. You know what? It was a useful distraction. I don't think that it should have been calculated. I think she made her decision before the snake emojis. I do not think she was going to endorse. I want to eat my words. I hope I'm wrong, but I think she had already made the decision not to endorse.
That's not what I'm asking you. I mean, I don't know if she's taking the snake emojis as an excuse or whatnot. I'm saying, do you think the snake emojis helped get her out of the race?
Oh, no, not at all. I don't think anybody even noticed in real. What helped get her out the race was that she's 5 years too late. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Right.
Like,
okay.
She doesn't have the fundraising capacity that she would have had. Even if she lost in 2016, this entire revolution would have been hers. The reason it's not hers, the reason she came in third place in Massachusetts is because the revolution solidified around Sanders when it was hers to begin with.
Without a doubt. All right. So what do you think is going to happen on Tuesday? Quick. You got to do it really quick. You got to tell me.
No idea.
We'll give me numbers. Need numbers.
I've got no numbers.
I'm joking.
I got nothing.
All All right. Well, do you think that Sanders needs to do anything other than go right at, keep going, or what do you think needs to happen now?
So at this point, I think they've given us as bad as Tuesday was, I don't think we could be in a better position, because the only thing that Joe Biden has to do to lose is to continue talking. They are going to do their best to hide Joe Biden, make sure he doesn't have any pressers, no gaggles, nothing. Right. And the thing is that Joe Biden, we don't want to talk about it. We're trying to be delicate with it, but he is obviously showing signs of cognitive decline. And I think if we delicately and respectfully demonstrate that, then people will start coming to their senses and realize that he can't go toe to toe with Donald Trump.
I would start by having a debate with only two people where he has to talk half the time. Yes. That's the thing, is that's why I think Warren's endorsement is relevant only right now. Yeah. Because if the endorsement comes out in the next 72 hours and propels Bernie in this coming Tuesday, right? Like pushes Michigan even further as a victory for him and gives him a bigger win in Washington. And maybe in some ways, I don't know where else she might have any type of real influence on the outcome, but changes the media narrative. Like if Warren says, I'm supporting Sanders, everybody has to pay attention to that. I mean, that's a big deal, particularly after she set this stuff up.
I really hope that is my earnest hope, Sam.
Me too.
I believe it would be great for the progressive movement. That would make me happily eat words. Whatever I've said negative about Elizabeth Warren in this interview, I would gladly eat those words. I would prefer to eat those words. I don't know.
Well, it may or may not happen. I don't know. Yeah. It may or may not happen. But my point is, then the next event we have the Virgin Islands, we have Guam, Northern Mariana Islands are going to be, but then on Sunday the 15th, we have the debate. And if Sanders is in striking distance, if Sanders is in the lead, look, that debate, I don't know what they're going to have to shoot Joe Biden up, so that he's going to last 2 hours. Some people suggest he may not even go to the debate, but I don't know how you get away with that at this juncture, particularly when there's these questions. Like, I think this debate could be, and should be on some level, what Warren did to Bloomberg should happen in this debate, which is, and I don't even think Bernie has to go at him, as hard to sort of say, who do you want? You're going to have these two guys up there. They're both old. But they're both old when they're next to Pete Buttigieg. But when Sanders is next to Biden and they're talking, I think there's an opportunity for people to sort of say, hey, wait a second. And, never mind from an ideological perspective, although the Social Security stuff I think is going to be really big. If somebody was telling me, Brendan was telling me that, Social Security is trending on Google. Social Security cuts are trending on Google in Michigan. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would make sense because there's probably a bunch of conversation there about
it. Happened in New Hampshire and other places earlier.
So we'll see. But Ben Dixon, the Benjamin Dixon Show, people can find it on Patreon, correct?
Yeah, patreon.com/the BPD show. Thanks for that, Sam. I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for
my pleasure.
What you do. It's fun to see you on MSNBC.
It's fun to be seen. Tell Chris, he follows me too. I could come on his show every now and then too. No,
gotta fly up to New York, man. That's the problem.
All right, thanks
right?
so much.
I'll talk to you soon. All right,
bye bye.
All right, folks. Now let's, since we're looking back. We'll take a look back on the campaign at the end of the world. We'll be right back with David Roth. Those songs we used Sam Seder on the Majority Report. On the phone, is a pleasure to welcome back to the program, formerly of Deadspin, maybe futurely of Deadspin. Who knows? It's a topsy crazy world. But now a writer at large and writing in the New Republic, which is like it's so nice now to enjoy that magazine again.
Yeah. It's cool. I've read it a lot when I was a kid, and now it's good, actually.
Yeah, exactly. David Roth, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me. Sorry I jumped on that with my effusive praise for the New Republic. I just really like the magazine.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm sure they appreciate your liking it, and that I hope that works out for both you guys, for both entities. Yeah. You wrote about Michael Bloomberg's candidacy. And, I mean, fortunately, it's over, I guess. But it is, just characterize it for us. I mean, what does it say about us as a society?
I was fascinated by his candidacy in a way that I never thought that he had a chance of being elected president, which was good because I think I would have been much more difficult to be around for those 5 weeks that he was running if I had really thought that there was a chance of it. But just seeing the volume of the waste of it, the sort of the falsity of it and the pomposity of the man himself was like, it felt, when I pitched it to the editor, it was like, I wanted to write about the excess and, what it says about the moment or whatever. And it was like, it wasn't a great pitch, but it was good enough to get me in the door. And then as soon as I started writing it, like, I realized that all I actually had on it was like, everything that I dislike about our culture right now is embodied in this campaign. And that's like way too short to run as an article. So I had to kind of like pay more attention to the ways in which it was screwed up. And every one of those is nauseating. Like every bit of money flushed on like TV ads that run like back to back in every commercial break in smaller media markets. Like beyond the fact that just sucks, like that's a lot of money. Like a lot of people don't have any money. A lot of people in those states don't have any money. Like the idea of Bloomberg just like flexing, 2 out of every 3 ads on like local television in Alabama or Tennessee is like, I would say makes people less likely to vote for anyone and more likely to, consider moving to a monastery of some kind.
There's so many ways in which I feel like our society has moved into just sort of like full on satire, right? Like, I mean, this is like, it's been a long time since I read the Magic Christian, but I can't help but think like, this is the type of stuff like you could have written this out in, 1955. And it would just be like, that's an amazing satire. I feel like 30 years ago, I could have read about this time written in 1955 and been like, it's a little bit over the top, but I get the idea.
The part of it that's funny is that it's all too on the nose to actually work. Like if you were editing a literary magazine and someone sent you, something that was basically like, all right, so there's a billionaire, he's like 5'5", he flies his own helicopter, he generally hates everybody. Anyway, so he wants to run for president, and his big pitch is shut the fuck up and let me run this thing. Like, that's not, that's a bit much. Like, you would tell people to maybe, like, dial it down a little in a couple of the areas where it seems excessive. And yet that's pretty much what happened for a month.
I just went to the Wikipedia. Let me just read about just a little bit about the Magic Christian. It's about a billionaire who basically spends his time doing practical jokes on people. And at one point, the billionaire buys a downtown vacant lot in a major city. He then has a 3-foot brick wall built around the perimeter and fills it with feces and offal into which bills of all denominations have been mixed. He then takes pleasure watching immaculately dressed people defiling themselves by going through there, wading through the muck for the bills. He has a habit of having his chauffeur park illegally in downtown areas, and when being ticketed, offering the officer enormous amounts of money to eat the ticket. I mean, it's just like, this is like Michael Bloomberg probably, like almost single-handedly probably like juiced an entire industry for 8 months. Like just, he spent $500 million extra dollars. Like this is like this is the problem with the coronavirus, right? Is that this amount of sickness, it's not like we trade out the coronavirus for the flu. The flu continues on. It's just that we don't have the capacity to deal with the sickness that's going to come from the coronavirus. Bloomberg just sort of like completely against all the physics of a campaign, just come in and drops $500 million. And it was probably more, right? Like his foundations and whatnot probably. And it's just stunning, like the disruption that had occurred and for nothing, for absolutely nothing.
That beyond the waste of it, as you know, in terms of electorally, obviously didn't do him much good. Like with all due respect to the American Samoa primary, where he rolled in that one, but the other ones were like didn't make a difference really. Like it didn't even impact that much. The whole, like if anything, I think it probably helped Sanders in the primaries, which you know was obviously not his intention, but. I think what you were saying about the idea of it being like a thing on top of another thing, that there's like already the experience of politics, and not even just as a result of like following it online, which is like, that's a bad decision that I make, you know, like I have to wear that one. Like I could just choose to do it some other way. But there's this sense that there's these old pipes that have entirely too much sewage going through them at all times. And in this case, it's just like, $500 million worth of sewage is a lot of sewage, especially on a pipe that is, you know, kind of like maybe full to bursting all the time anyway. And there's just something about the overage of it beyond the like sort of, you know, just how pathetically it didn't work. There's just the idea of having that much extra money to spend on nothing, and then everybody just having to wear it in terms of like just every ad, you know, space that could be filled with anything is filled with that. And then there's ad spaces fucking everywhere, you know, that like, here's
a stat. Well, this came from your piece. Advertising analytics estimated that voters in Alabama, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Tennessee saw one of 3 dozen ads he had commissioned more than 30 times per day leading up to the primary.
How does that even happen? I mean, like beyond the fact that, you know, there's only so many ad holes in a television thing. The thing that I was struck by, and this was actually true at the New Republic right up until the very end, he bought ad space there. He bought ad space in newspapers so like his face and like his message appeared in the sort of the spaces built into the stories for advertising in stories about him. There was an ad that ran during the freaking
debates,
presidential debate, where it like, which is, I mean, I guess
that should be illegal.
This is the
sort of right.
Yeah,
I mean, like
it really should.
We're going to just have the debate be a safe space, so it doesn't look like the network that's sponsoring the debate is also profiting off. Like that seems like sort of like a conflict of interest a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in that moment, I mean, it's a conflict of interest across the board, I think. But in that moment, it seems particularly conflicted. Yeah,
like that's like that's a layup. You know, like there's not one of those things where there's like interesting questions about should newspapers take campaign ads. I don't think they should do that either. But I think that definitely like advertising for yourself during a debate in which you are participating seems gauche. Like I would say maybe that should not be done. But this is actually, I mean, I'm not as familiar with the Magic Christian as you are, but what you were describing in terms of the poop and offal pit with the $100 bills floating in it, that like that was the sort of the provocation in the Bloomberg campaign, and the part of it that made me the most uncomfortable as I was reading more about it and as I was writing the story, that like all of it sort of feels like a dare. Like you're basically coming to these guys and being like, obviously, like it's messed up to run an ad for me during a debate that I'm in, but like I'll pay you whatever, you know, double the rate, or like I'm coming in higher than any of these other advertisers. And you're basically just daring people to say no to money.
Right.
And in every instance that Bloomberg made that bet, he won it. That every time he was like, that 30 ads a day is like a TV station is going to turn viewers off. Like they don't want to see that shit. And yet, like if you're paying, if the money's green, then like there you go. Like no one's gonna stop you from spending $500 million in a month if you've got it to spend.
The stunning thing about what Bloomberg did is like every time he did what you just talked about, it was self-validating, right? He's like, you think I'm despicable because of all this money? Really? Here's $5 million. Do you want to say that again? Or maybe you do. What about here's $7 million? Like the every time he was able to buy somebody or have them take his money, it was validating his entire existence on some level. And here's what scares me about the whole story, right? What if Bloomberg wasn't as awful? I mean, just really awful as a human being and as a campaign. Now, there's a subsidiary question to this, which is, can you be a billionaire and not be in some way awful? Like awful at some of this. Like
inhuman in the way that Bloomberg is, or just like sort of fake seeming? Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question.
Well, I mean, like, because like Steyer, I think is not as bad of a person as Bloomberg, right? But in part, like, okay, he's still not a guy who is, since his billionaire status, who is really has a sense of what reality is like, right? Like if just, I mean, this seems petty and small, but like if Steyer had any touch with reality, he would have never worn that tie in multiple debates, right? Somebody would have said, hey, you know what? I know you think that like that's a way of like sticking out and that's your personality and whatnot, but that tie looks just strange to people. And there's you have a lot of obstacles into becoming president. Why would you choose an article of clothing that's just going to make it a little bit more difficult?
This has been a really interesting subtext going all the way back, I think, to the sort of the Schultz campaign where I think the question of whether a billionaire could be, if it was even ever a campaign, I don't know if that counts or not. Like that was basically just a weird Twitter prank that he played for a little while.
I think maybe you should risk the, take the risk of imagining, what is it? Where are you, Matt? Come on, hold on for a second.
It's risk the imagination of a new type of possibility.
Yeah, maybe you should try and do that. Will you pull that up, please, for him? This is Bill Burton, former Obama.
And maybe we need a solution to it that risks the imagination of a new kind of possibility.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Right?
That's really good. That's like those like magnetic poetry things that you can put people put on their fridges.
Yes.
Like if you did one of those and it was only Buttigieg lines, that's what you could get something like that come out of it. It's really that's inspiring shit.
Exactly. I think Bill made like $2 million on that specific line. But all right.
And then I would be qualified to run for president and wear just like weird clothes if I had it. If it came up on the magnetic poetry side of things. The one thing with Bloomberg that I want to add at the end of this, just because I think you're right about Steyer. I think Schultz is very similar. People that are that rich are sucked up to in a way that normal people are not. And with Bloomberg, I remember when all those ads were running, there's all these videos. I mean, they were like, it's not opposition research. Like they're all out there on YouTube, with like 300 views of him speaking at like the Mohammed bin Salman Ideas Festival or something. And all the shit that he's saying is like not smart. I don't doubt that like he's got a, good straight line brain or that he's like, there's things that like, he's not a dunce. Like it's not the sort of thing with Trump where the guy knows like 100 words,
right?
Like Bloomberg can actually probably do it, but these ideas had been unchallenged. They were the sort of thing that was just sort of like a game of telephone played at a dinner party thrown by lobbyists, and the game of telephone went on for like 100 years. And then that's the thing that comes out at the end of it. Just like weird ideas about poor people and education and whatever. And because of the venues in which he talks about this stuff, and because of the fact that he's got all this money that people want and need, I just don't think anybody has told him to shut up or to point out that he's wrong for many years, for decades. And that softens even a respectable mind.
Right.
And to see, somebody like Schultz, like the smugness of that guy, where it's just like he's had powerful people sucking up to him because they want him to give them $100,000. And somehow he forgot that part of the transaction was involved. And so he just thinks that like Hillary Clinton really respected him a lot.
Right. And they talk in such a way that they don't realize. They're just so out of it. They just don't realize how they come across. I mean, Michael Bloomberg talked about other human beings as if they were, in some respect, just, there to slow him down in Midtown traffic. Right? Like it's like
data,
they're just
data points.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess so. Let's go to the second question. What if it was possible for there to be a slightly less awful billionaire, one who was slightly less attuned, like just the sheer. So Bloomberg, right? Like, I mean, if he, let's just do an alternate universe for a moment. If Bloomberg doesn't go on stage for that debate, right? Like the DNC doesn't change their rules and he doesn't go on. You look at his Super Tuesday numbers and there's reason to believe that maybe, and if he doesn't go on that debate stage, I don't know if Buttigieg and Klobuchar decide that they're going to rally around Biden because, Bloomberg doesn't crater. He goes into Super Tuesday, instead of getting 14% in California, where he's at right now, he gets 17% and picks up delegates there. He picks up delegates maybe in, Texas as well. Maybe, I don't know, Massachusetts, who knows? And all of a sudden this guy's still in there and he starts to get enough delegates. Maybe Warren drops out and then there's nobody to sort of like, really go at him because, Bernie's like, why would I go at him? He's splitting votes with Biden at this point. Like you can either look at that scenario or just the scenario of like, what if Bloomberg just wasn't so awful? Let's just talk about the implications of money sort of giving you that type of benefit. Like people say, like, this proves that money doesn't make a difference. Well, it's like, this guy's pretty much like the worst, test case for this, because I feel like I could give you, David Roth, $500 million worth of advertising and you could end up being president.
I think that is a bad test case for you.
Right. Okay. Well, let's choose somebody else.
But I do think that I think that it's definitely true that like, if you think of Bloomberg as being like like a zero in terms of like, as a politician, he's like, like the baseball idea of like replacement level.
Right.
You familiar with that?
Yes.
So he's like, you could pull any billionaire out of any yacht club's dining room and they'd be exactly as charming and perspicacious and interesting to listen to as Mike Bloomberg is, which is to say not any of those things.
Right.
But if you spend a sufficient amount of money, then you can still like to see that like basically the most amount that could be spent practically during that period, like, and you said, like less any public appearances. If it's just advertisements where there's pictures of him standing next to Obama and he talks about, nice things that get Democrats fired up, never like economic justice or social justice, but like being nice and wearing suits and handling disaster relief properly, things like that. Like that's enough to get you into the conversation, even against people that actually have records, that actually have some array of like talent and craft and, committed people working for them. I mean, that's the other thing with Bloomberg that's kind of funny is that basically everyone that worked on his campaign didn't want him to win, it seems like.
Right.
There's a story by Ken Klippenstein in The Nation today that's hilarious about like just all the ways that people spent the money that he paid them to like boost Bernie or like get takeout for their friends and family.
Right.
Like it was just everywhere that they could get over on him, they did. It's like on principle, which like I salute. If like you have a chance to get over on a billionaire, like it is your duty as a citizen to do that shit.
That's right. You must redistribute the money. I just have this like notion of like, the movie version of this is that, on the day of that debate, Bloomberg, Bloomberg has, gets hit by a bus and his son, I don't know that he actually has a son, is like all of a sudden, like a ne'er-do-well, I don't know, 27-year-old is just like, oh my God, I have $35 billion after the estate tax. And I'm going to fill in for dad on the debate stage. And he just gets up here. He's just like, look, I don't know if I totally agree with my dad's policies, but I just promise I'm going to beat Trump. I got $35 billion. And then he just like, it's like one of those like, now, and then it's the record scratch and he's on stage and boom, he's our next president.
I really like the idea of there being like a Braden Bloomberg, like just like some guy that kind of like mostly he's into boats, but then suddenly he's running for president. And he's like, I promise I'm going to not like be as drunk as I am right now when it's time to be president.
Exactly.
And then everybody's lining up behind him. That's if you're looking for a Magic Christian sequel, maybe that's the book to write.
Well, I can't encourage people enough to head over to the New Republic and check out your piece, The Campaign at the End of the World, and follow you on Twitter. What is your Twitter handle?
It is at David_J_Roth. Wanted to make it as easy as possible for everyone.
There you go. We will put that in our podcast description and YouTube description if we can figure that out. Do we have underscores?
Yeah, I know. The underscore, it's a weird thing. You have to hold down Control, and then it's voice activated from there.
Right. Fantastic. It's like also how you get that little TM symbol, apparently, too, is when you do that. David Roth.
If you don't ask Clippy, it can't be done.
David Roth, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
You too. Man, what is with, like, who does the underscore? That was like, I remember Guy Lawson also had the same sort of like, I got Guy __ / asterisk pound symbol.
I will always regret putting an underscore in my Twitter handle.
What was the theory behind that when you did it? Was there just like other people are taking Jamie Pack?
I don't know. I didn't know Twitter was going to become a thing that I was on 24/7 or mattered at all.
People laughed at my my old email address. Was like, like my old email address was some variation of my middle name. It was to disguise who I was, because at the time, like when we got email, like this is back like, Earthlink days, and CompuServe days. And it's like, I don't know what this is. I don't know who's going to get this information. There was a different sense of what you were willing to put out publicly at that time.
My first email address was Toyota Supra 298 at hotmail.com because I was very into the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as that, but...
God.
And I wasn't, for some reason, I didn't authenticate it correctly. So when I tried to go on Messenger, I couldn't change my name to Matt, so it always said Toyota Supra 298.
My God, there's so many different ways in which that's disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been worse. Instead of having a Twitter name that I uses my middle name, which I never use for anything, it could be something like that. So, wow. Blessings.
Folks, this program relies on your support. You can become a member by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you get extra content every day. The other day we put up, and now we got video for members. And we put up the other day, what did I put up? I can't remember.
Your Super Tuesday reaction?
Yeah.
The Not So Super Tuesday?
Not So Super Tuesday. Maybe it was on Wednesday. I can't remember. But you probably saw that in the app. And that also looked pretty good. Kyle, the quality of that. Anyways, so become a member. Go to majorityapp.com. Pick up the app if you want. And on the app, you can listen to the AM Quickie at amquickie.com or subscribe on iTunes or whatnot. Tell your friends. Leave some reviews for AM Quickie. That helps. It is 6-7 minutes, maybe 5 minutes of news in the morning. Gets you caught up on the day, or last night or the day before, sets the tone for the day. Get to hear me in my morning voice. And so check that out. Also, don't forget to visit the No McKee Show at patreon.com/the No McKee Show. She also has a YouTube channel. You can find that. I think they have their video from their live show that they had out in Cali the other day. And don't forget to check out TMBS as well. I think they also dual live stream that.
It's going to be a live show tomorrow night, 7 p.m.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Here. Well, it's a studio book.
Oh. I thought you meant like a live.
Oh,
like,
no.
Okay.
Just a normal.
Yeah, TMBS will be live tomorrow night here. Why is Saturday night? Why not Friday night?
I don't know. It's above my pay grade.
There you go. Jamie, what's happening on the Antifada?
This week on the Antifada, we speak with Shuja Haider, a great political writer and socialist, about the Bernie Sanders moment we're having right now, how it relates to the larger fight for not only social democracy, but socialism, what socialism even is, because it's always been contested territory, how we can keep on pushing Bernie on issues that we care about as leftists, and much, much more. Also, for our patrons, we have a bonus out today where we continue our conversation with Shuja. We talk about some bad articles in The Nation and The Root, have a little fun with it, but also get serious about Bernie and intersectionality. So check it out, patreon.com/the Antifada.
Matt?
Yeah, coming up on Literary Hangover, we're going to be talking about next week. This is not for Saturday, but next week we'll be recording on The Widow Ranter by Afra Ben, the playwright. It's a 1690 play, one of her last ones, about Bacon's Rebellion. We'll talk about other things such as like there was a law in colonial Virginia where white women's sort of economic production was not taxed. That went, of course, to the male household, but black women, their income was taxed. So you can imagine what kind of effect that would have over a period of time on different types of...
Is that right?
It's amazing how explicit these sorts of like gender, race, legal like constructs are in colonial times. So we'll be talking about things like that.
Wow. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous. You're a little bit upset. You're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
That's some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 8s. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Ooh.
Rand Paul. I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agreed.
No.
Death to America.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up. Ooh. Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey, shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
yes, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, here I am. I am here with you. I'm gonna take some calls today. Get people on here. Curious as to what people think about the chances are that Warren's going to endorse. I mean,
Thank you for calling into the
I
Majority
would
Report.
just be
Please
incredibly
use no
disappointed if
speakerphone
she
and have
does
your one
not.
comment or
I think
question ready.
She is going to, but I would love to be wrong.
Yeah, my pattern.
I'm starting to lean towards that a little bit, particularly after.
I still think this. I'm more and more thinking the story about that broke the unity about the conversation that she didn't want to characterize publicly, but made hay out of. I think that was a signal that she made her choice.
Then you mean?
Yeah. And that's why, like, everyone just wants to rewind the tape back to the snake emojis without actually talking about that moment. But
and the thing is, I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and it again was just it was in many respects like just political malpractice. I mean, even if you stipulate, because it's just easier to sort of, I think, explicate this, if you stipulate that Bernie did say something that either was close to what, what was reported that he said, or was interpreted as that, okay? Which, frankly, I don't think is a terribly controversial statement. It's subsequent to that, we've had a lot of people write, like, yeah, women have that concern too. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It doesn't necessarily mean that even if he said that was really what he was talking about. Maybe he was saying, like, I don't think that you can win, or whatever. But, I mean, I remember that day. I remember when the story came out in the morning. The story came out in the morning. There were 4, people who she had told contemporaneously or around that time that he had said something like that, which, perfectly reasonable thing. Like, people talk. And she came, but she had 6-7 hours to decide how are they going to handle this. It's the campaign. Had she come out and said, I don't talk, like, people were like, you want her to lie for Bernie? No. If she had said, I don't talk about what is said in personal conversations, period, end of story. Then
Stop snitching.
Then what she gets is the benefit, if there was any, to the idea that he said that, and the benefit of, like, I don't kowtow to, I'm not driven by your questions. I decide what I talk about. And I mean, that to me is just, it's about political malpractice. But
yeah, well, there's still time for her to do the right thing.
And I would totally love to eat my words on this, just like Ben Dixon was saying. If she endorses Bernie in a super helpful way, I mean,
well, any way that she endorses him would be super helpful.
But regardless, there's still time for her supporters to do the right thing, whether or not she endorses Bernie. And I would imagine that there is a higher proportion of Warren supporters who support her for ideological reasons than other candidates' supporters supporting them. So if you want to make good on your progressive values, it's time to get on the Bernie train. And I think a lot of them will.
I think a lot of folks will. I don't know if there's as many there now, after Super Tuesday.
Yeah,
really.
Maybe in October there was.
Yes. But I think those people have sorted out a lot of those people.
I think what she's doing, and maybe this is unfair, but when your kid falls down and they look to the parent, whether they should cry or not, I think what Warren's doing to her supporters now is being like, oh my God, are you guys okay? And it's really, it's cultivating a bad sentiment for all this stuff. And I don't know. I hope she stops it. Like, I don't know. The Maddow interview was very depressing because a moment that could be about unifying progressives instead about basically scolding the mob.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of more important stuff going on in the world right now.
Right.
And if you thought like just 8 years ago that this scenario would be happening, Bernie Sanders would be this close in delegates to Joe Biden, and Rachel Maddow and Elizabeth Warren would be set up to do something positively in terms of a narrative about it, and then that's what we ended up with.
Yeah, no, it's like the meme going around where the Warren supporters can't figure out which button to push. Similar platform guy or sexist segregationist with dementia. I think most of them can figure it out, though, and I have faith in them that they will. But also, I think there are more votes to be taken away from Biden in all of this. And these strategies are not mutually exclusive, but I think it's up to the Bernie people to pitch him as the safer choice, because a lot of Biden's support is not ideological. It is people who just want to beat Trump, and you can make that appeal to them.
Without a doubt.
And I agree that we should probably move on from Warren and focus on Biden in this moment because of what it projects in terms of strength.
And it's more people.
Exactly.
Let's even turn our attention for a moment to the Trump administration and the right-wing response to, I mean, look, this should not really come as a surprise. It's a little disturbing, but it should not come as a surprise that when you have a right-wing regime in power, their whole ideology is against a functioning government in many respects, or functioning in ways other than to just provide them with, dumb money, as it were, public money. And that's what we're seeing. Meanwhile, on Wall Street, you have a big Wall Street sell-off. Whatevs. I think it's good insofar as it's going to sharpen people's understanding of like the implications. There's no way for us to measure really like anxiety. There's no way for us to measure like, oh, I was going to go visit my parents in Los Angeles, but now I'm not going to go. Or, I'm worried about my parents because they're older and I don't want them going out to the market. I mean, there's no way to measure these things. There's no way to measure it. The stock market provides at least a reflection narrowly tailored towards wealthy people, which is why it's rare that it responds in this way to when, non-wealthy people have anxiety. It doesn't respond to their economic anxiety. But like I've been saying, coronavirus is the great equalizer. This will get you in the suburbs as well as it will get you in the city. And so the market is down, and they wheeled out this dude, Rick Santelli. He is the one who came on and basically launched the late iteration of the Tea Party, when he came on and basically said, these Chicago commodity traders don't want to pay for people who got stuck in bad loans. Right, guys? We need a rebellion. And sadly, too many people listen to that. Well, he's back here to tell you that he has a solution to the coronavirus.
Think about how the world would be if you tried to quarantine everybody because of the generic type flu. Now, I'm not saying this is the generic type flu, but maybe we'd be just better off if we gave it to everybody, and then in a month it would be over, because the mortality rate of this probably isn't going to be any different if we did it that way than the long-term picture. But the difference is we're wreaking havoc on global and domestic economy.
So in other words, let's get the deaths of, I don't know, like what are we talking about? If it's 300 million people and there's a death mortality rate of, let's just say 3% to make it easy, but I think it's probably closer to, I don't know. Nobody really knows for sure because we don't know how many cases there are.
Yeah, they don't know for sure.
But it could be Well, look, it's no less than 0.7%, which is, 700,000 or that would actually be about 2.1 million, right? For 300 million people. If it's 2%, then you're talking 6 million people. If it's 3%, then you're talking 9 million. It's like let's just get this World War II level of death over quickly so we can get the stock market back on track.
Well, that's the thing. You were just talking about the number of deaths, but you weren't also talking about the stock market we could expect to have in those scenarios. So,
right. Well, but the thing is, they would go down. There would be a brief dip. Like we could just get the killing of the.
It's like ripping the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's just do it once. And here's the upside. You also decrease the pressure on Social Security. So
if all those people are going to die anyway.
This moron does not understand anything about anything. And it's unbelievable that someone like that isn't taken off the air. I mean, they suspended that guy, David Roth, was it? Because off the air, he said, I'm a socialist and we really need to do a better job as a news organization to maintain our integrity. They suspended that guy. But the guy who just called for the get it over with deaths of 2 to 9 million people so that we can get the stock market back up to where it should be, he probably just hey, way to go, viral clip, man.
I like it when they take the mask off. Let's show everybody what we're up against, and just the degree to which your life does not matter at all to these people compared to the needs of the market and the wealthy.
It is stunning. It is stunning. You would think there would be even the slightest bit of embarrassment expressed. We really shouldn't be advocating the deaths of millions of people quickly.
What would it look like if we actually followed what he said, where we're going to give it to first of all, we can't test more than 1,000 people a day, but we're going to organize a giant national party where we expose people to coronavirus.
First off, right now, we're not even testing 500 people a day. Right. Okay. Exactly. We can't yet.
Yeah, we don't have the infrastructure.
I got an idea,
either.
actually. March Madness is already going to happen. Everybody needs to participate this year. Just go to your local gym and you can watch it but you'll be sharing water bottles and stuff like
that. Exactly. Unbelievable. Exactly. Here is, now, as you know, the president was on the phone with Sean Hannity. Did we play this yesterday? Let's just play a little bit just so that it's set up a little bit. This is Trump on the phone with Sean Hannity. He's nervous about this coronavirus, folks. I mean, he's everywhere now.
To do this because a lot of people will have this and it's very mild. They'll get better very rapidly. They don't even see a doctor. They don't even call a doctor. You never hear about those people. So you can't put them down in the category of the overall population in terms of this corona flu and or virus. So you just can't do that. So if, we have thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that get better just by sitting around and even going to work. Some of them go to work, but they get better.
There you go. So you've got Donald Trump saying, it's no problem if they go to work. He's not encouraging necessarily people to go to work, but he's saying it's no problem. It's no big deal.
A lot of people do it, no problem.
A lot of people do it, no problem. It just goes away. Maybe they infect 10 to 20 people at the time. I mean, maybe it's a little more. Who knows? Here is the national, I think it's Allergy and Infectious Diseases head, Anthony Fauci, and Alex Azar, of course, who's head of Health and Human Services, pretending there's no problem with the president doing that.
You've been trying to get out accurate information to the public on how to self-quarantine, what the numbers are, testing, all those things. When the president is countermanding things by saying the numbers of WHO are wrong, when he's saying people who might have this can go to work anyways, is it helpful to get your message out when you're being countermanded by the president on TV fairly regularly?
I don't think I'm being countermanded I don't.
The president said last night that people who had the mild disease could essentially go to work. He suggested that. who have mild
Well, I had
symptoms.
not heard that. I can't comment.
I hadn't heard that
The
either.
WHO number of 3.5 is wrong. He thinks that it's not the case. Is WHO wrong? Is there a number? Because
Well, I do think Admiral Giroir just walked you through the disparity.
States.
Well, no, that's actually based on international data.
So has WHO been wrong? It's 3.5.
All right. Now, does that create faith in you that these professionals are on top of it? Like maybe they're lying, although it didn't look like to me like Fauci was lying. It did look to me like Alex Azar was lying. But the idea that they don't have somebody in their office going like, oh, incidentally, I watched the president last night on television counteract what the message we're trying to get out, which is like, if you feel sick, don't go to work. I mean, this is just nuts. Absolutely nuts. And on one hand, I may feel some like sympathy for a guy like Fauci because this guy's obviously a professional and he's got to make this assessment of like, I'm working for the Mad King, but I'm really working for the health of the American public. And so if I have to sort of like keep my job by pretending that this dude is not insane, then I'll do that because I can do more good than not. And if I get fired, they'll probably just replace me with some, frat,
Steve Miller's friend.
Yeah. Or, Steve Miller's frat buddy or something who, took AP, biology or something
They'll
in high
replace
school.
them with Dr. Nick from The Simpsons.
No kidding. This is sort of terrifying. Now, on top of this, I mentioned this earlier. South Korea is testing. They have drive-through tests. They're testing 10,000 people a day. The problem is like there's a 14-day incubation period. And so if you have any inclination that you maybe have like been exposed or you may be sick or any of this, there's no way for you to know that you're not a walking sort of like, patient zero. It's not patient zero, but whatever. And, in South Korea, you go to a drive-through, you get tested, you find out if you are, et cetera, et cetera. In the United States, apparently the CDC test that they first put out was insufficient and messed up. They're not using the World Health Organization test as to why we don't know. And because
better deal somewhere else.
There is a test that exists. Maybe Jared Kushner owns a company that makes the test. Who knows? And who is this guy now? He is Rear Admiral Stephen Redd. He is the one of the top doctors at the Center for Disease and Control and Prevention. And here he is trying to answer this question as to why we have only tested 3,600 people in this entire country after a week.
Can you answer our question, please? Why did the CDC decide not to use the World Health Organization's test?
Do you want to talk, Dr. Red? Do you mind talking about
Now
that?
pause it. Now here's the question. I want to reiterate this. Why aren't we using the World Health Organization test? It has already been established. It exists. And I think the answer is because we didn't want to concede that we may have had a problem here. Or maybe it has to do with, I don't know.
We don't want to know the answers to these tests.
And here is the guy who has to sort of explain that. And he doesn't seem to be able to.
Can you answer our question, please? Why did the CDC decide not to use the World Health Organization's test?
Do you want to talk, Dr. Red? Do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, thank you. There's a process of developing tests when there's a new disease. We followed that procedure. There wasn't a need to follow the WHO test. We developed a test very rapidly after China produced the sequence. We're in the process of validating that, and that's the test that we're going to be using.
But why is it that once we realized the first CDC test had several faulty tests, false reads, you didn't go to the WHO test when we knew how quickly that this was spreading?
So the process, as we've described, the emergency use authorization, really getting the test out and then using that initial experience to make sure that it's working the way that it's supposed to. When we found that that wasn't the case, we really looked at what was going on and that's where the new test has come from, the one that we were talking about today.
Right, but shouldn't we have been prepared, given that we had weeks ahead of time, that we knew this was coming? We heard from health officials literally for months that this was going to spread here, that there was only a matter of time before an outbreak, and yet still the tests weren't working.
Well, we began development of the test within hours of the posting of the China sequence, so I don't think that there was any delay on our side.
So even though in South Korea, for example, they are testing 10,000 people a day once they had a diagnosis, and we took us a week. I don't even know if we have tested 10,000. As of Sunday, it was 3,600.
I think that the steps the Secretary outlined is going to ramp up our capacity to test many, many more people than we've been able to test before, and I think that's the right step at this time.
And our testing in the United States has been very consistent, if not even more aggressive than similarly impacted countries. So we are not Korea. Korea is in a very active hot zone outbreak.
Yeah. We are not Korea yet.
Oh, boy.
Right.
I feel like I'm definitely going to get it. I've already made my peace with it. It's fine. I'll be okay. I'm healthy-ish. I'm young.
That is not necessarily showing solidarity with the rest of us.
No, I'm concerned about the boomers and whatnot, for sure.
Indeed.
Concerned about my older family members. You're getting up there, Sam. I want you to be okay.
Yeah, I'm also in the zone. Calling from a 215 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Sam, hi, it's Mindy. How are you?
Hello, Mindy. How are you?
I'm good. I have a theory about this thing with Biden that I just wanted to share with you. I don't know if I'm right, but this thing with Biden decline, the people that are supporting him are all the boomers, and the boomers are like all in decline. So when you attack Biden, you're like attacking the boomers. So for instance, I could be driving, I'm going to be 61. I could be driving with my husband in the car, and it takes us a little longer to get the thought out, but we get the thought out eventually. Like, we're like, do you remember that girl from blah, blah, blah? Like 10 years ago, we could go, you remember that girl? And like, he goes like Sandy. Right now, it's like, oh, didn't she have the dark hair? So like, it's taking us longer to get to the point, but we get to the point. So if you're attacking Joe Biden on his going senile, people people my age might be saying, well, I forget things, but I get to the point. I forget things, but I'm functioning. I forget things, but I'm getting there. Like, and I'm efficient, and I'm getting things done, and I don't need help. So I think when you attack Biden on the senile, you're making everybody feel really uncomfortable. I'm not saying you, but everyone's plus Biden had said that he will only serve look, I am not Biden. I know what you're saying. Okay, but what I'm saying is he said that he would only serve 4 years. So he's acknowledging that he's in decline. So basically everybody wants to know who his vice president is, because that's going to be the person that's going to swing the mantle in 4 years from now. And also the other thing is Trump is a fucking moron, and he's really in decline. So if Biden's in decline, he's in decline, but not as bad as Trump. So, I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
well, I think what you were saying before that all makes sense to me. First off, I think that, let me just start from the last to the first. I think people are making a fundamental mistake to compare Trump and whoever the nominee is, like you just did. Like people aren't going to listen to Donald Trump when it comes to about respect about women. People aren't going to listen to Donald Trump about, meanness. We're going to play a clip in a minute that I think exhibits this. People aren't going to listen to Donald Trump about saying that Joe Biden is corrupt and is full of nepotism, because who's going to vote for Trump versus Biden over the question of nepotism? That is the wrong calculation. That is the wrong formula. The question is,
what was I doing until then?
But let me just make this point, though, that when Donald Trump says those things, he's not doing it because he thinks he's going to get people to vote for him. He's doing it because he thinks he can get away with it and just suppress the votes for the other person. I think there may be I think there may be some truth to that, older voters are, like, when I validate Joe Biden, I'm validating myself because he's getting attacked. I mean, I think that's possibly true, but, I don't know. And for those people who, let me put it this way. I don't think that Joe Biden's support was that strong. If a huge percentage of his support came in the last 3 or 4 days before Super Tuesday, and as a function of other people validating Joe Biden, I think that's where the weakness is. And so I think, Bernie needs some outside validators. Yeah, I think Bernie needs some outside validators or validation. And part of that may come from just other voters. Part of it may come from endorsements. We'll see. But yeah, I think the idea with Biden is more like there needs to be some validation for the idea that he's in decline.
Sam, you have to talk. It's very imperative that you guys start talking about Social Security and Medicare. Because if you do not make Social Security and Medicare the premier factor for voting for Bernie over Biden, you are definitely going to sink this. Not you in particular, but you have to talk about Social Security. You don't think that's
No,
true?
I think that's true. But I think Bernie, I suspect that's what we're going to see in the debate,
And trade as well.
And what's that?
I've been saying this. Michael's been saying it too. Trade is a major area of vulnerability for Joe Biden.
Well, particularly in Michigan. And
particularly in Michigan, particularly in other Rust Belt states. Trade was a huge issue in 2016. And it's these deindustrialized areas in which Bernie can attack Biden on trade and say, I voted against these bad deals like NAFTA.
Yeah, but what's more relevant in my mind for the voters, because I don't think like the ideological arguments are resonating in the way. What's more relevant is that Donald Trump can get to the left of Joe Biden on trade. Donald Trump can get to the left of Joe Biden on just about anything because he's shameless. But I appreciate the call,
Right.
Mindy. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Let me show you what I mean by this. Here's Donald Trump. And he's going to come out and he's going to say stuff that to our ears sounds ridiculous. We will laugh at this. It's laughable that Donald Trump is saying this about anybody. And people are going to say like, oh, nobody's going to vote for Donald Trump over, Warren in this case or Biden or whatever based upon that. But you're missing the point. Donald Trump can get to the left, can get to the good side of just about anybody on these issues because he's shameless. And all he's concerned with doing is, come wrestle with me, in the mud because I'm already muddy. And if I can get you muddy, then it's like, a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, if I can get you into the low tide, then it's not as much of a problem that I'm beached.
Do you think sexism was a factor in Elizabeth Warren pulling out? And do you believe you will see a female president in your lifetime?
No, I think lack of talent was her problem. She had a tremendous lack of talent. She was a good debater. She destroyed Mike Bloomberg very quickly, like it was nothing. That was easy for her. But people don't like her. She's a very mean person, and people don't like her. People don't want that. They like a person like me that's not mean. Okay, I'll see you guys.
Yeah. And the thing is, he says that, and it's like, oh my God, are you kidding? No, who would ever decide on meanness that they're going to vote for Trump over Warren? But that is not what he is going for. What he's going for, now, of course, Warren's not racist, but I'm just saying that using this as an example. What he's going for is for people to just turn on Warren. And not all people, not even 10%. He's just looking like, can I convince 3 or 4 or 5% of people that Warren's just too mean? And they just go, you know what? They're both meanies. I'm not going to vote. And that's what Donald Trump's game plan is. And he is going to get, and then what he's looking for is he's going to survey, and I don't mean him. right? I think on some level he just sort of like works animalistically in this respect. But his people, they're going to survey the electorate that is supporting Donald Trump. And they're going to look at the one where they think they can convince one segment of that electorate that there is not sufficient difference between the two, or that both are bad enough, they've both crossed the threshold of being bad, that it's not worth their time to leave their house and vote. That's how he won in 2016. That's the only path he has in 2020.
Yeah, they looked at ballots where the top was left blank in 2016 as Republican votes.
Exactly. And the people who were Obama to nobody as votes for Donald Trump. And that's what he's going to do. And so it's not, the idea of like, how can he make a corruption nepotism argument? He doesn't need to win the argument. That's what people don't understand. He just needs to in any way create enough doubt in those people who might be marginally thinking of voting to keep them at home.
Oh, yeah. And if you think that he's not going to attack Biden's record on race, like, oh, my God.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah. This is, I'm not sure. Here's Charlie Kirk. This is a guy, he has a lot of integrity. First of all, he's on the Sean Spicer show, which in and of itself is, I think, disqualifying. The fact that Sean Spicer has his own show now, the Spice Factory. What is it called? The Spice Rack? I was going to say like
Spicer and Co.
Spicer and Co.
Sounds like a grocery store.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It's like in like the airport mall. Well, let's play the opening later. Let's do this Charlie Kirk first. So Charlie Kirk is on the Spicer Rack and Company on Spicer and Co. And here he is talking about Donald Trump. This is a man with deep, deep integrity.
First, it's for Trump supporters that are under constant barrage and assault when they're told that President Trump has no substance, President Trump has no depth, President Trump has no idea what he's doing. This is for them to be able to defend the thousands of years of philosophical history behind the Trump presidency and behind Western civilization, which President Trump is currently the guardian of Western civilization. Secondly, it's for people in the middle, people that might like President Trump and what he's doing. They've seen their lives improve, lowest ever black unemployment, Asian unemployment, disabled unemployment, female unemployment, but they're not really sure how to articulate it, and they might not be able to make sense of everything they see that's positively happening. And then finally, it's written for people that hate him to the core. Because seriously, I'm sure that some of the best-selling, sales we're seeing are the hate sales, and it still counts as a sale, so that's fine. I hope you guys bulk order, because I believe that any person who hates the president after read this book, it's impossible to read the book and still think that he's a poor president. You might think, I hate his style, I hate all this. That's opinion. We deal in facts in this book, and America's in a better place. Thanks.
We only deal with facts, says Charlie Kirk, and that Donald Trump is the savior of Western civilization. Here is a fact that Charlie Kirk tweeted out just a couple of weeks ago. Fact, Bernie wants a $15 minimum wage. That is a fact. Then he goes on to say that would mean a gross salary of $31,200 for a 40-hour work week. I believe that math
That's
works
also
out,
true.
right? But he wants to tax anyone making above $29,000 a year, 52%.
How many Pinocchios is that?
That is about as many Pinocchios as you can get. Now, maybe Charlie doesn't understand the concept of progressive taxation. He mistakenly keep that up for a second. Okay. Yes.
Our Reddit user has
so 29,000 is where you are responsible for no taxes whatsoever. 52% tax rate. So if you make less than $29,000, you're completely exempt from from taxation. So if you are not working 40 hours a week, there's a lot of people who can't find a full-time job. 52% is your marginal tax rate for every dollar above $10 million.
How many dollars over 10 million do people earning $29,000 a year make?
I believe that would be zero. So then he goes, that would make for a gross salary of $14,000 or $15,000 a week, $288.
Assuming you were taxed at 50%.
Assuming you were taxed at 50%. That, you know, good for him. Kudos on the math there. This goes through the various marginal tax rates, but
so facts.
Even if this were true, okay, people make $7.20 an hour now, and they don't have universal health care. So, like, they are still coming out ahead.
I don't know if they'd come out. 52% is pretty high, but we'll see. Yeah, I know. Yeah, because it's only 20 over above. Yeah, I don't know. We're getting too into the Charlie Kirk bullshit.
But the bottom line is not a fact. Here is Charlie Kirk. Now, granted, this was 3 whole years ago, before Donald Trump became his president.
This is back when he was an actually young conservative.
Exactly. This is back when he was just a young pup wasn't sure yet where his money was coming from. And this is what he had to say on Fox Business.
I guess it's good optics for Donald Trump. I don't understand how he thinks he's going to bring the party together when just, I think, what was it, a week ago, he publicly retweeted an image that went directly after the spouse of Senator Ted Cruz. I don't understand how he thinks he's going to bring the party together when in an interview with CNN, he keeps on calling Ted Cruz Lion Ted. I don't think that's exactly the uniter that you want. And look, last night, it was laughable, his appearance on Chris Matthews. Are you kidding me? This is the guy that's going to bring the party together that says women should be punished because they pursued an abortion. This guy is I think he's self-destructing in front of us. You see it in the polling in Wisconsin. You see it in the polling in California. I would say right now, it's a 50-50 chance that Donald Trump walks out of Cleveland with the nomination, and there's a lot of forces at B that are pushing back against it.
John Lambert, you're with the...
Yeah, there you go. Charlie Kirk, that's a pretty big 180-degree turn.
You're welcome on the show, though, Charlie.
Yeah, I love Charlie Kirk on the show. Explain to us that 29%.
Explain to us marginal
tax rate. Folks, Sean Spicer apparently has a television show, and we, as a public service for you, so that you don't actually have to watch it to see the opening, have presented it for you here. Sean Spicer, if I remember correctly, was a public relations expert, and he spoke on television before. This is just about as awkward and dry, and this is
it's up to 67 views though.
This is the premiere, so it hasn't quite caught on quite yet. But here is the opening of the premiere of the Sean Spicer program, Spicer and Co. on WorldNet Daily.
Newsmax.
Here you go, Newsmax.
Keeping the coronavirus under control, the concern at the border, and the big news on the economic front. Chris Matthews kicked off the air. It's a hard end for the hardball host.
Pause it for one second. This is, I get the sense that there is music playing in his ear. Like the other day I did the live stream here, and I was playing this, my pad, and it wasn't going through. I could hear it, but I thought it was going out to the computer.
Right.
And you should keep that up. I'm running my pad to the phone computer. And so I was like talking as if I was, in the rhythm of the music that was playing. And maybe that's what's happening with him there, but this is just like, was this live?
I don't know. It seems like it, because if you look at the very beginning in the bottom left part of the screen, somebody comes into frame very briefly. It's very amateurish.
Keeping the coronavirus under control.
Yes.
The concern at the border and the big news on the economic front. Chris Matthews kicked off the air. It's a hard end for the hardball host. And it's Super Tuesday. There's a story no one's telling you. Find out why Mini Mike might be playing a bigger role than people think. The premiere episode of Spicer and Company starts right now.
Oh my God. This sounds so familiar to me.
Yeah, this is the McLaughlin Group opening.
Super Tuesday is finally here. And as we wait for the votes to be counted, so many questions could be answered tonight. Welcome. I'm Sean Spicer.
And I'm Lindsay Keith. Well, just in a few hours, we may know if Joe Biden's momentum can stop Bernie Sanders or if the Vermont senator starts to run away with the nomination.
Do you think that she goes home and says, you know, to her husband or her wife or her, you know, sister, whoever, like whoever she gets on the phone with when she gets home, or her cat, and she goes like, been doing 10 years of broadcasting, and I'm sitting next to this stooge, and he can't even read a teleprompter. Unbelievable.
Do you remember the Boom Goes the Dynamite video, Sam? Where this is so yeah, basically it's this college guy, he's announcing sports and it's really bad.
This weekend the Cards will battle an in-state rival Indiana tomorrow. Tomorrow's game will be the meeting between the two, beating both first.
Oh, he's lost. I can't find the.
Hoosiers are on the 4 on the year, and
what does he do at one point? Boom.
At one point he says, and
they have won 6 of its last 7 games tomorrow.
I don't know. At one point there's a good play and he says, and boom goes the dynamite.
Switching to Ball State men's tennis, it seems last week player on.
Oh. But he wasn't a professional who was representing the president of the United States.
That's true,
for, whatever it was.
Although they might need a spokesperson.
All right, 2 more clips from the news that might be of interest to you. I don't know if we're going to get to many calls today. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know. You know, sometimes it makes you question whether or not they do any work on these shows and vet anything. Here is one of the New York Times op-ed writers, or I should say editorial board members. And do we know who Makita Rivas is? It's a Twitter handle. And, well, I don't want to read the tweet yet. I'll read it in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Are they shut down their Twitter?
Yeah,
feed?
somebody who blocked their account.
Yeah, I bet.
And put in their bio, I know I'm bad at math.
That's funny.
Somebody tweeted recently that actually with the money he spent, he could have given every American $1 million.
I've got it. Let's put it up on the screen.
Pause it. Now, I wonder, do they say like, hey, we're going to do a segment based around this tweet, and nobody bothers to read it and like sort of like even think about it? But here we go.
$1 million.
I've got it. Let's put it up on the screen. When I read it tonight on social media, it kind of all became clear. Bloomberg spent $500 million on ads. U.S. population 327 million. Don't tell us if you're ahead of us on the math. He could have given each American $1 million and have had lunch money left over. It's an incredible way of putting it.
It's an incredible way of putting it. It's true. It's disturbing.
No.
It does suggest, you know, what we're talking about here, which is there's too much money in politics. And it makes it difficult because what we want in politics, the point is to have competition. And the point is to have the best candidates and have people from all
I mean, we don't need to. Now, do I need to walk people through this? If you spent $500 million and there's 327 million people in the country, you would not be able to give all 327 million $1 million.
No.
It's not the way it works. You could give 327 people $1 million. In fact, you could give 500 people $1 million if you spent $500 million.
I tried to see if this would work if Bloomberg it actually took into account Bloomberg's entire wealth and not just what he's spent on campaigns. He's about worth $60 billion, right?
Oh yeah, $60 billion.
So if you divide that by 327 million, everybody could get $187 from, or what was it? Somewhere around there, 183. So that's all he could give us. But I mean, I think we should all have that money.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I'm open to that.
I also just want to say, though, I think too many people are saying Bloomberg failed here. I think Bloomberg got pretty much exactly what he wanted. He wanted to stop Bernie and maybe Elizabeth Warren. And, like, he maybe wanted to be president, but I think he's fine with Biden taking it over.
Oh, definitely. Bloomberg did just what he set out to do.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Bernie's still in it, so I'm not sure that mission accomplished yet.
That's true,
frankly.
yeah.
I mean, we got to see.
But he protected Biden really well, I think. I don't know.
They did what they could do. They put all their chips on Biden, and they had to do it all at the same time in order for that play to have a chance at working.
And now it's like angels in the outfield where the oligarchs can't help you so much anymore because you've already used them up. Hopefully. We'll see.
Here's an uncomfortable moment. What do we call this? Whitesplaining?
That works.
Oh boy.
Or white feminism.
Racism?
I mean, where is this? Which number is this? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What's her name? Obviously,
Hillary Rosen and Nina.
Oh, it's Hillary Rosen. Yeah, I didn't recognize her. Hillary Rosen is on with Nina Turner. Hillary Rosen, of course, was a longtime Clinton surrogate and is still, in many respects, I think, still has some issues with Bernie. They're both on with Chris Cuomo. This is an interesting exchange.
That don't hold up. You know, Nina referenced Dr. Martin Luther King before, saying that he said from the Birmingham jail that we should be concerned about white moderates. That's actually not what Martin Luther King said. What he said is we should be worried about the silence of white moderates. Are you kidding me? Nina, wait.
No, she's making a language point.
What he said was we should worry about the silence of white moderates. And what we have in Joe Biden is a man who is not silent. He has a long record, and many votes that in today's world feel like the wrong thing were the wrong thing, and he has discussed that over and over again, as Bernie Sanders did on the gun votes and other things. So we can be talking about votes from 20 years ago, or we can be talking about people's values and who they trust.
Last quick
and
point.
that's what Joe Biden's going to be talking about.
Last quick point to you, Nina.
What Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about, he said it is the point that the white moderate wants things to be comfortable, and instead of focusing in on that, the bigger threat is not necessarily the white KKK member, but more the white moderate that is more comfortable with keeping things the same or pretending like there is no tension.
Don't use Martin Luther King against Joe Biden. You don't have that. You don't have that standing.
First of all,
I'm sorry, you don't.
Don't tell me what kind of standing I have as a black woman in America. How dare you?
You have a lot of standing as a black woman in America. You don't have the standing to attack Joe Biden using Martin Luther King's words.
I didn't attack anybody. You're taking it that way. Listen, don't dip into what I have to say about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. How dare you, as a white woman,
I'm
sit up here and try to tell me,
Nina,
I'm supposed
Hillary,
to feel and what I'm doing right now.
I'm out of time on this.
That's something wrong. Chris, I didn't jump in on her,
Nina,
though. And then she wants to jump in on me.
Okay, first of all, it's not nobody's jumping in on anybody. You guys are in the same party. This is what you guys have to figure out.
I mean, I think I get the sense that certainly Hillary Rosen is she's figured it out. Like she's on there trying to provoke Nina Turner, and I think on some level you got to try avoiding taking the bait. But there's such a double standard when it comes to
him saying she's
Sanders.
making a language point, Nina, a language point.
Yeah. Can you
she's
imagine,
making a point with language.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what would be the narrative right now if the roles had been reversed here?
If Hillary Rosen was a Bernie surrogate and Nina Turner was was Simone Sanders or was working for Joe Biden, forget it.
Apocalyptic.
It would be apocalyptic.
Did you see Hillary Rosen's apology that she then had to apologize for? She said, quote, "On air Thursday, I said my colleague Nina Turner didn't have standing to use MLK Jr. That was wrong. I am sorry for saying those words. Please, no need to defend me and attack angry black women. They have standing. I always need to listen more than I talk. We rise together."
So that's why angry black women has been trending on Twitter. I
Oh
wasn't
my
sure why
God.
that was.
Wow.
Be nice to the angry black women.
All right, folks. Look, I wish we had more time to take more calls. I apologize. It has been the doing the late nights early in the week is just, it gets me going. It's tough. We will be back Monday, though. What do we do on Monday? Do we have a guest on Monday? Oh, yeah. We do. Speaking of the anger gap, how race shapes emotions in politics. There you go. The anger gap, how race shapes emotion in politics. We'll be talking about that on Monday. Tuesday night, we'll be covering the primaries again, but hopefully it won't be quite as late of a night. Washington State may come in earlier because a lot of it's by ballot, by mail-in, right? So maybe they got that worked out. See you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101